fighting moves and techniques shown in this game can be very dangerous if attempted in real life and can possibly lead to accident and/or injury. Please do not try to imitate them. Dragon Ball Raging Blast is a very tricky game. Some people say it is shit compared to BT3 and that it's full of flaws and glitches. Others say it's the best Dragon Ball Z game yet. And I understand where people are coming from with all this mixed reception because, for example, one day I went to play Raging Blast and I thought, damn, this is really good. And then the next day I played it and thought, meh, this sucks. My point is, it was really hard to form an opinion on Dragon Ball Raging Blast, but that's alright. In this review, the only stuff I'm going to focus on is the three most important and controversial things, and that's the fighting engine, the story mode, and the online mode. Oh, and at the end I'll talk about if I prefer Raging Blast or Budokai Tenkaichi 3. The fighting engine. Dragon Ball Raging Blast has the same basic fighting engine from the previous Tenkaichi games, except for all the small tweaks and changes that were made. Several new things were added, like super rising, wall crashes, signature skills, the sky change effect, etc. But my problem is that more than half of them are really gimmicky and forced into the gameplay. For example, wall crashes. It's not a bad idea to be able to throw your opponent and get them stuck in a wall, but there's no variation to what happens in it, so it's very repetitive and gimmicky, and it just feels stuck there in the gameplay. Same with the sky change effect. Despite all those gimmicks, there were some pretty good new things added, such as team attacks, cancels, and character change interceptions. The last one I just listed actually was really original, and I was impressed by it. In a team battle, when your opponent switches characters, you can actually intercept that switch now and enter a DBZ-style clash, which is pretty cool. One of the major changes in Raging Blast from BT3 is how the simple melee combos work. Instead of different combos being decided by what smash attack you did, or rush attack as they were called in BT3, now different combos are decided by what cancels your character performs. The tutorial of Raging Blast basically explains that after doing a smash attack, your character's body gets stiff, and you need to perform a cancel to get rid of the stiffness and be able to continue your combo in whatever variation you'd like. The usage of cancels are different for each character, and they can be used to string together many different types of basic combos, which really does add depth to the fighting engine, even though it is weird at first. Another big change is instead of having automatic defensive maneuvers like Sonic Sway, now defensive techniques are manually performed, and your options besides your basic guard are swaying, vanishing, snap vanishing, or countering, depending on what offensive moves your opponent is doing. I think it is good that defending has been made less gimmicky, but for some reason I really like the automatic moves from BT3. Switching gears to super attacks, Raging Blast simplified the super attack system from the Tenkaichi series by getting rid of Blastox and making Blast 1 attacks work the same way as Blast 2 attacks. I can kinda see why they did this, but it's kind of a problem because Blast 1 attacks can now be a lot more easily performed and spammed. If you've played Raging Blast online before, you probably fought at least one guy who spammed Wild Sense over and over again. I guess the fact that super attacks are now customizable, as in you can choose which super attacks your character has, makes up for it. And the camera. Oh, the camera. If you read any critic review on this game, they will always bash it for the bad camera. While I do think that they are right and that the camera needs some serious fixing, I also think they overdid the criticism on it. The camera isn't terrible, plus it's not very hard to adjust the angle, but whatever. I will admit that it is very annoying for your opponent to be charging up their ki or whatever right in front of and above you, because you can't see them at all even though they're so close to you. Still, reviewers are trying to diss this game because of the camera, and I think that's completely wrong. I agree with them that the gameplay still needs work, but for another reason. So let me talk about this reason. This is going to be pretty tricky and complicated to explain simply because I'm going to sound hypocritical, but hopefully I'll make it clear enough. On the surface, the fighting engine just appears to have too many moves and options for you to do, which could result into a sloppy fight. This is kinda hard for me to explain, so I'm going to read another review of this game written by Vegito EX of Daizenshuu EX because he also addresses this, and I quote, My concern with the plethora of offensive abilities was just that. There are far too many. Never in the heat of battle have I consistently been able to string together a coordinated, thought-out, and responsive combination of super attacks, throws, crash attacks, down attacks, pursuits, snaps, max charges. You can make the argument that the player, being me, just is not well-versed and talented enough to both remember and utilize them all, but there is something to be said for simplicity. Whereas so many areas of Raging Blast do feel simplified from Sparking Meteor, aka Budokai Tenkaichi 3, to have so many offensive techniques at your disposal is a little at odds with that. I find myself resorting to melee attacks followed by pursuits, sometimes comboing into super moves, lots of homing dashes, and all topped off with the occasional ultimate. End of quote. So basically what he's saying is that with all those different ways of attacking, it can feel a little discombobulated at times. But here's the thing. On the surface, you have this plethora of attacks, but honestly, stuff like throws, charge attacks, ki blasts, super dashes, whatever, they're good seasoning to the gameplay, but the core of a fighting game like this should be the advanced melee and the super attacks. And while at first glance it seems like Raging Blast has too many attacks, if you delve a little deeper, you're going to discover that Raging Blast is actually lacking. Like I just said, the core of a game like this needs to be the advanced melee and the super attacks. If there are two different components in this core, and there are, then they need to be balanced. But Raging Blast isn't really balanced. I know Dragon Ball Z is about the huge energy waves and supers and ultimates, but if that's what dominates the game, then you're looking at a pretty shallow experience because all you have to do is charge up your ki a bit and press the right stick in the direction. And while Raging Blast isn't completely on that level, it's still leaning to that side. The fact of the matter is, most gamers just keep on doing super attacks over and over again. And everybody complains about the stupid spammers in online battles, but the truth is, this game's fighting engine encourages spammers. That's why there's so many of them to begin with. Now, how do you fix this imbalance? Well, the problem isn't with the supers. Actually, they have the super attacks down perfectly. There's barely anything to change about it besides the Blastock thing I mentioned earlier. The problem is the advanced melee. You are so limited in what you can do here. Now you may be thinking, but what about cancels? I'm not even talking about that. That's the small basic stuff. I'm talking about non-super attacks that deal a good amount of damage, are more effective than just regular smash attacks, can be used in flashy and intense combos, and have that awesome feel of Dragon Ball Z fights. Basically stuff like the pursuit attacks. Raging Blast is lacking in that department. Actually, more so than Budokai Tenkaichi 3, because in BT3 you had more moves like perfect smashes and vanishing attack combos and all that. That isn't in Raging Blast for some reason. It is true that doing a smash attack high, followed by an aerial combo, followed by a pursuit attack 2, is a pretty sweet advanced melee combo, but that's kinda it. You can do the two types of pursuit attacks by stringing them off of smaller melee combos. This provides depth, but still. I enjoy doing the smash attack high, aerial combo, pursuit attack 2 technique, but it gets old and there's not much more I can do to toss my opponent around. There needs to be more than that. If they add in more pursuit attacks and other advanced melee options, then the core of Raging Blast's gameplay will be balanced. It'll be a lot more fun to play and people won't be spamming super attacks so much. And we're already good with the seasoning to the fighting engine like the throws and dashes and all that, so yeah. Still, overall, I think Raging Blast has a decent fighting engine.